I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 7 in the series of the Virtual PPL, and today we're going to take a look at flying a circuit, or a traffic pattern, depending where you are in the world. I've included a short clip of my real life landing towards the end of this video, so if you want to see it, please stick around. The first thing I want to talk about is QFE, QNH and QNE. So QFE is height above an aerodrome, and that's what you would use when you're flying a circuit. QNH is above mean sea level, so you would use that on your cross-country flights. And QNE is what the commercial jets use when they're flying in the flight levels. So typically as a J pilot, you wouldn't really use that unless you have a very capable aircraft and you're flying in the flight levels. There's a new checklist that I'm going to bring to the table, and this is our downwind checklist, and this is something you want to remember when you're flying rather than pulling out a checklist. So as part of the PPL, you are taught this and you're taught to remember it. And there's many ways to remember it, but the one I remember is brakes, undercarriage, mixture, flaps, fuel pump, fuel, instruments, carpet, hatches and harnesses. So for brakes, we check that the parking brake is off and the pressure is checked by activating the toe pedals. Additionally, you need to keep your feet away from the brakes because you don't want to be hitting them whilst you're landing. Undercarriage, we know it's fixed in this aircraft, but it's good to have it included in the downwind checks, as this is something that will become part of your flying career. So if you move on to something with a retractable undercarriage, you want that to be part of it, so you can never have a gear up landing. Mixture, we move to the rich position, in case we had it leaned off for a cross-country flight. Flaps, we would set accordingly, typically not in the downwind position, but on base. Fuel pump, we turn on, and this aircraft doesn't have a fuel pump, so we will not be using that. Instruments, we just check again that our compass and DI are aligned, our altimeter is set to QFE for the circuits, and our T's and P's are all in the green. Carb, we turn on for about 10 seconds, that just lets any carburetor ice dissolve away, so we don't have any issues on landing in case we need to do a go-round. And then hatches and harnesses, so we just make sure the doors are definitely shut and locked, and everyone's got their seatbelts on in case they took them off during cruise flight. So before we begin, the first thing we need to do is our before start checklist. So our seats and belts are all secured, our brakes are set, electrical equipment's all off, our circuit breakers are all in, our carb heat is off, and our fuel can go on. And that's the before start checklist complete. And now the engine start checklist. So mixture can go rich. Engine will prime 3 times as it's a cold start. Carb heat is cold. Throttle open 1/4 inch. Master switch can go on. Check the propeller area is clear. Normally in real life you would open your little storm window, or in this case the whole window, and shout clear prop. We'll turn our beacon and nav lights on, and then we'll operate the starter. Once the engine started, we check that the oil pressure is in the green, starter warning lights out, and our transponder can go to standby. Normally at this point you would set your radios for air traffic control frequencies and nav frequencies, but in this video we won't be looking at those. Now the engine started, we need to get the ATIS as an automated terminal information service. Normally you would jot this down on your kneeboard, but we'll just read it from the screen here. So we're going to get all the weather information for this aerodrome. So the wind is 271 at 4 knots. Within limits, down the runway, nice. Visibility is great. A few clouds at 1700 feet, that's fine, as our circuit height is 1000. A few clouds at 4700, and then ceiling is broken at just under 14,000. Temperature is 15, 2.13, that's great. If ever these two temperatures are really close, you can expect fog. Altimeter is 2992, and runway 27 is in use. So, for the altimeter, depending where you are in the world, 2992 or 1013 in millibars. I use millibars, so I'll be setting it to 1013. However, that's QNH. So as we're doing a circuit, we want QFE. And the way to work that out is every millibar is approximately 30 feet. And I know the aerodrome height or elevation is about 80 feet for this airfield. And as indicated here with QNH. So all I would do is divide the 80 feet by 30, and I get just under 3 millibars. So I'll reduce it down to 1010, and then we have our QFE. So that's giving us our height above the aerodrome, not above sea level. Okay, so now we'll head over to our holding point. So we'll just check around to make sure the area is clear. Not going to blow anyone away with our prop wash. And now we understand where we're going in terms of taxiing. So we're going to holding point Golf over there, runway 27, and we're currently on apron Kilo. So we're going to taxi round out at Kilo, turn left onto taxiway Alpha, follow it down to holding point Golf, and that's where we'll do our power checks. So our throttle can go to idle. Park and brake off. We'll get the aircraft moving, then we'll idle the throttle again, check the brakes are working, they're all good. Increase the throttle again, check our right steering, our left steering, and then we can head over to our holding point. Okay, so we're at holding point Golf for runway 27, and we'll just stop just before the stop bar. Roll to go back to 1200 RPM, parking brakes on, get some light on in here. Just take a quick look at the windsock, make sure it's as we expect, so barely any wind and it's down runway 27. Should make for a nice easy takeoff. Okay, so now we need to do our power checks. So parking brake is set. Throttle will increase to 1700. We'll check our mags, so left mag, right mag, back to both. Car beep we'll check. We expect a small drop, which we get, and back in we should see a small climb in the RPM. Our meter is showing a positive charge. Vacuum is within the green, or suction, depends on what you want to call it. Oil temperature is good, oil pressure is good. Fuel gauge as expected, and plenty of fuel for the flight. Then we'll check idle. And it's idling fine. So back to about 1200. Check our car beat is off. Mixture is set, so fully rich in this case. Flight instruments, so we've got QFE set here. Just after south. So after south, that's fine. So that's matching our compass and DI. Our fuel selector's on. Our seats are in position locked and our harnesses are secure. Our flaps we don't require. Trim tab is set for takeoff. Little tab there. Quite hard to see in this plane. Or neutral, depending on which aircraft. However, you do want it slightly back for takeoff, ideally. All depends on the aircraft, though. Controls, we'll check they're free and correct, so left, right, and we'll just check that visually as well as expected. And our elevator. They're all free and correct. So our door's closed, our radios, in this case are not set, but it would normally be set. Transponder is on standby, and now before takeoff check is complete. So once we've been given clearance, we can reduce our throttle to idle, park and brake off, and we can line up on runway 27. Okay, so we'll just check approach is clear and the departure path is clear. Our transponder can go to alt, our landing light and strobe lights can come on. Feet to the floor, full throttle, and make sure we're lined up with centre line. Waiting for our airspeed to come alive. So airspeed's alive, T's and P's are in the green, power is set. Wait for 60 knots. We'll rotate. And then we'll change our attitude for best rate, which is VY 75 knots in this aircraft. We'll keep the climb going, maintaining runway centre line till about 500 feet. At 500 feet we'll start a left circuit, half bank, so 15 degrees as it's a climbing turn, and the turn will be 90 degrees to the south, nice and easy. So there's 500, start our turn, keeping that climb going, maintaining the climb speed, and we're looking for south. Okay, so we'll roll out about south, keeping that climb going. Once we get to 1,000 feet, which is circuit height, we can level off. Okay, so we'll level off, bring back the power to cruise, and apply any trim that we need. And then just maintain 1,000 feet. Have a look behind us at the airfield. Once we're 45 degrees on the threshold, we'll begin our 90 degree left turn, 30 degree turn, and we're looking for east, maintaining that 1,000 feet. Making any small corrections that we need to do. And there's east, so we roll out. And correct any altitude deviations and retrim if we need to. As we pass the threshold, so once we're abeam the threshold, that's where we'd normally do our downwind call to ATC. And then about halfway, we'd do our downwind checks. So as before, brakes, they're off, pressure is checked, undercarriage is fixed, mixture is rich, flaps we don't require right now, fuel pump we don't have in this aircraft, fuel, there's only one tank as such, it's two tanks, it's both fed equally, so it's on. Instruments, compass and DI are still aligned, we've got QFE set. Carpeat, give it a quick blast. Hatches, harnesses, all good. And then we're looking for 45 degrees from the threshold of the approach end of the runway. So carpeat can go back. And there we go, about 45 degrees, so make our left turn. We're looking for south, so another 90 degrees. Sorry, north. And we'll roll out there, and then car peak can go on, reduce the throttle, get our aircraft speed in the white arc, and then we can apply 2 stages of flaps. Once we're at our descent speed, about 70 knots, increase the throttle to maintain a 500-foot descent rate, keeping that out for the runway so we know when to start our turn, keeping that descent coming now. There is a lot going on, and you have to be ahead of the aircraft at all times, and you have to really get on with it, otherwise you could be late for your turns. Okay, so we need to reduce the throttle a bit more as we're a bit high. We can start our left turn. So when on approach, you use the controls slightly differently. Power you use to control your height, your altitude, not your elevator. And then the elevator, you use that to control your airspeed. So if you want to reduce the airspeed, you pull back. You can reduce the throttle to reduce your altitude. And then we'll just keep the descent coming. We're a little bit high if you look at the PAPIs. Precision Approach Path Indicator lights. We're looking for 2 white, 2 red, so it's still a bit high. Keep it coming down. Aiming for about 70 knots. I'm anticipating we'll get a red in a second, and then 2 red shortly after. There we go. We can go with another stage of flaps. Expect extra drag from that one. Watching that speed, if the speed drops, increase the power, but nose down at the same time. The power will increase our altitude, and the nose down will increase our airspeed. We're a bit low now, so just bring it back up a little bit. There we go, we're getting back onto the path. And there we go, we're right on 2 white, 2 red. Ideally you'd want to do that all the way down. Now we're above the runway, we can reduce the throttle slowly, gently. And just above the runway, we'll round out, fly level, just above the runway, put the throttle completely, and then flare. And there we go. Carby can go away. Flaps can go fully up. And then we'll go full power for our touch and go. So we'll just do it again one more time. SP's alive, 60 knots, TSP's are in the green. Rotate. Maintain runway heading, 270. Waiting for that 500 feet again. As for a right hand circuit, it's exactly the same, just to the right. It's good to practice both so you don't get stuck into a routine and then when you get a different direction thrown at you, you struggle. There's 500 feet, so we can begin our 15-degree turn to the left, 90 degrees to the south, keeping that climb coming to 1,000 feet. And we'll roll out at south. Still got that climb coming, waiting for 1,000 feet. We'll level up at 1,000. Bring back the power to cruise. And trim. Wave 45 degrees on the runway threshold. And then we'll start our left turn again. Full 30 degrees. watching the altitude, and we're looking for east. Roll out on east, and watch the altitude. Make any corrections that you need to, retrim if necessary. Call downwind, and we'll do our 4 landing checklist. So, brakes, pressure is checked, they're off, undercarriage is fixed, mixture can go rich, flaps we don't require, fuel pump, fuel is on, still got sufficient quantities, compass and DI are aligned, T-speeds are all in the green, carb heat, quick blast, and the hatches and the harnesses. Looking for 45 degrees from the threshold of the approach end. And that's good enough for me, so we'll start our 30-degree turn to the left. Maintaining the altitude. Looking for north. And then carb heat. Bring back the throttle. Hold the attitude. Don't let it descend. Get back into the white arc. 2 stages of flaps. Add the power back in, anticipate the drag. Start our descent coming in now. 70 knots, about 500 feet. Looking for the runway. A bit high, so reduce that throttle some more. Remember, power is for altitude, and the elevator is for airspeed on the approach. Quite difficult in these high wing aircraft to see. There we go, got it coming in there. Looking for the pappies. Okay, so 3 white, 1 red. Looking for 2 white, 2 red. We've overshot a little bit, so we'll just line back up. There we go, we've got the red. 2 white, 2 red, sorry. Increase the throttle as our descent rate's a little bit high. Increase the throttle a bit more. Still too low, so a bit more throttle. A bit bumpy here. Final stage of flaps. Retrim for our approach speed of 70 knots. There's our 2 white, 2 red. Keep it coming down. Aiming for the numbers. We're above the runway, so start reducing our power. Just above the runway. Round out, reduce the power to idle, and flare. Keeping our eyes at the end of the runway. And there we go. Now I'll show you a short video of me flying a real approach in a PA-28 Warrior. Okay, so for our go around, we'll fly as normal. And this will simulate ATC telling us to go around for whatever reason, or if we identify a reason that we should not land for. For example, a vehicle or another aircraft on the runway, or the approach isn't stabilized, any sort of reason along those lines. So, the usual procedure, roll out on our heading, get our airspeed into the white arc for our flaps, 2 stages of flaps, anticipate that extra drag, nose down for 70 knots, then increase the throttle to maintain a decent descent rate of about 500 feet. Keeping out of our runway. So for our go around, got full flaps, car beat is set, our approach is not stable, we're too high. We'll wait for us to get a little bit closer, and then we'll initiate the go around. Okay, so we're going to go around, so full throttle. Pitch up gently, so we don't get a stall. Watching our airspeed, got a positive rate, so our flaps can come up in stages. Car beat can go away. Still got a positive rate. Another stage of flaps up. And the final stage of flaps. And then we just complete the circuit as before. So on this circuit, we'll have a look at a glide approach. So this is to simulate an engine failure, and we'll initiate the glide approach from the end of the downwind leg. So for our glide approach, we will go idle throttle, and then we'll get our best glide speed, which is 65 knots straight away. As we're doing so, we can start our long sweeping turn towards the runway, watching the airspeed. Once we've got 65, we can trim, keeping that turn coming, and aiming for the runway. Once we're happy we can make the runway, then we will figure for landing. As you approach the ground, you will have an overwhelming desire to pull the nose up, but all you're going to do is reduce your airspeed and end up in a stall. So it's really important that you stick to the best glide speed. So we're not too far away from the runway now. Keeping that turn coming. Try our best to get lined up as early as we can. And then once we're happy, a couple of lumps and bumps as we go over the trees there. Once we're happy, we can start configuring for landing. So, 2 stages of flaps, Final stage. Watch that airspeed. Don't let it drop too much. Bring the nose down. Round out just above the runway and flare. And there we go. We're down. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And if you want to see more in the future, please subscribe.
Being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts.